Duke 28, Clemson 7. Duke won this game from the start. Duke was physical, brought the fight, and looked every bit the equal of Clemson. And, we talked about the manner in which the game might play out. None of us were out here saying like, oh, Clemson's going to blow them out of the water. If Clemson wins, the defense is going to put the clamps on them. That was the assumption. Riley Leonard had a tremendous performance in this game, but there's also the Clemson side of this, which is how much alarm should we have about the Clemson Tigers given the loss that we saw on Monday night?
Quite a bit.
Yeah.
I think. Now look, if they played this game again, would I pick Clemson? Possibly. Clemson did some good things. I didn't think Klubnik was actually all that bad. The numbers weren't great. 43 attempts for 209, but we'll get to that. They had a 60% rushing success rate, 45% overall success rate. So I didn't think the offense was like that out of rhythm. The really concerning thing for me here, Chip, is that Duke basically just played match quarters and some like man rat against these guys the entire time, which is basically Duke saying, hey, Clemson receivers, y'all suck. We don't think you're any good. Now, look, there are some teams that can get away or should be able to get away with playing man coverage or man type concepts predominantly against Clemson. Those teams are like Alabama, Georgia, Michigan. If they're right, like a Florida State or Florida, right? Like occasionally NC State's got a great pair of corners.
They do this year.
Duke is not one of these football teams that should be able to man up your corners and just spit on, or man up your receivers for Clemson and just spit on them. We talked about this over the summer, though. Like, do they have dudes? Do they have anybody who actually scares you at receiver? And why aren't they using the portal? Georgia went and used the portal. Hell, you know who used the portal pretty effectively at receiver? Mike Norvell at Florida State, team you're going to play in about 3 weeks, is probably going to put it on you. Like Keon Coleman. If you had Keon Coleman on this Clemson football team, imagine having Williams as a 2. Williams is a fine 2. They're just missing that cleanup hitter at receiver. I also wonder if, like, culturally, some like in the NIL era, if some of this like rah-rah family stuff, I don't know, man. Did you see the player just whiff Dabo on the handshake?
Uh-huh.
Is there stuff going on there at Clemson?
No, I think you're just frustrated and embarrassed. I saw that too. Dabo's going for the handshake and, kind of went right by him. I believe that was a spot where they were not, man, this is so tough because it's a lot of projection, but I would not be surprised if someone inside that program said we were not mentally prepared for that game, that they showed up and
why? I mean, like, it's not a 9-win football team with an NFL quarterback you're about to play. It's not like they have anybody on deck. There's no over. Like, I don't know who they play this week, but it's nobody good.
Charleston Southern,
right? Like, why are you not prepared for that game?
I thought that they were a little bit shell shocked early, and you mentioned it because when you overall look at the everything that happened. You say, okay, and Dabo Swinney, he had the line after the game. We were undefeated in my time, and I believe 108-0 all time when we run for 200 yards and pass for 200 yards. When you have that kind of balance, when you are able to run the ball well. But there were 13 offensive drives. Throw out the end of half. There were 12 of them. Let's talk about how they ended. How about 2 red zone fumbles? How about also 2 missed field goals? How about also 2 turnovers on down in Duke territory and an interception near midfield? I mean, there is anywhere from conservatively 12 to aggressively 30 points that were left out on the board or on the field because Clemson's offense was not able to finish or they were making awful mistakes at the very worst time on a down-to-down basis. Like you mentioned the success rate numbers right there. It wasn't cause for concern. But at the same time, when you've got a new full-time starter, when you've got a new offensive coordinator, those issues, those are going to cause some alarm. It looked like a group that just was a little bit disheveled at the absolute worst times.
Yeah, I'm dropping their power rating from like a no doubt top 10 team to more of like the top 20 range. They don't look special athletically to me at a number of spots. And Chip, you pointed out exactly kind of why they lost the game, the outcomes down there. But I would ask, like, where's the explosive scores?
Oh, sure.
Right? Where's the ability to hit the easy button and hit the ball out of the ballpark? right?
They're just not. They don't
What
look
was your
special.
favorite pass play that Clemson had over 20 yards?
It's 0, right?
No, they had one.
Okay.
21 yarder to Brown.
Oh, just over 20. Congratulations.
Yeah.
I was on CBS Sports HQ on Monday night. I said they look regular. And like that is regular by a Clemson standard. And I'm glad you mentioned the power rating point, because I was thinking they're closer to North Carolina than Florida State, and it's not even close. Like North Carolina and Clemson looks like it's going to be a competitive game September 23rd in Death Valley. I'm not sure that I feel that way right now. And I think that Clemson can run the ball and play pretty good defense against most teams on its schedule and go win 8 or 9 games. But unless they're able to like take a big step forward offensively, I think that our run of 12 straight 10-win seasons might be in jeopardy right now.
Completely agree. They've got 2 or 3 more losses in them for sure. I think because like this is kind of one you had to have. Like this is a game you can't drop. I think people would excuse a Notre Dame, a Florida State, if Miami actually played to its ceiling. A Miami, you can't lose to Duke, right? Like that's just not. And look, all credit to Mike Elko. Obviously, like Clemson's going to do bigger numbers for us on the ratings. They played really about exactly how they needed to play that football game, right? Limiting mistakes, opportunistic, allowing Riley Leonard to make plays with his arm and his legs, and let Clemson make some mistakes or force some if you can. But man, and look, I thought there were a lot of good things for Clemson too, for sure. Like I don't think the program is like on the verge of collapse.
No. But it's like we just need to acknowledge when it's not the standard. My buddy Joe Giglio always loves to say the standard is the standard. And that performance, listen, Riley Leonard is a dude, but Riley Leonard outran the Duke defense down the sideline on a 44-yard run on 3rd down. Like you had to bring him down, and he was bouncing off defenders of Clemson. Like this is problematic, to say the least.
One of the problems for Clemson is that Florida State and Duke run a very similar schematic defense. But both coordinators are off kind of the same larger coaching tree. And what Johns and Norvell run, the OC Kevin Johns for Duke, are also kind of similar. And I think for Clemson, it's good that you saw it, but you're about to see it turbocharged. So you've got about 3 weeks to come up with some answers for, like, this is like you flunked the pop quiz. The real test is coming, and the real test will be harder, but at least you've seen it. So we'll see. Clemson absolutely could make improvements to a lot of things they did, but they will not be getting better receivers in 3 weeks. And I think they just don't look special on the outside to me. They also only had 4 tackles for loss. Like I know Duke is actually a pretty good team as far as avoiding tackle for loss, and they always try to stay ahead of the chains, but is it problematic if Tyler Davis is one of your best players? Is that emblematic of the overall talent level on this team? Like I like Tyler Davis, but Tyler Davis ain't a first rounder. He's like a good college player. Where are the like no doubt first round game records for Clemson? Some of the guys I think they were counting on making that leap don't appear to have done so. They're still a really, really good football team.
You mentioned Duke's defensive approach to Clemson and how that messed things up. There's a lot of conversation among Clemson fans, and I appreciate you bringing the schematic eye, but is the way that Duke played them what leads to a lot of side to side? Like basically Cade Klubnik is left just taking what is given to him, and that's checking down, swing passes, screen passes. It just didn't even seem like there was a big attempt to be able to move the ball down the field vertically.
I think early on, Duke wasn't sure what Clemson had. As they went on, I think they disrespected Clemson's receivers more and more.
At halftime, Clemson led.
Yeah.
It was 7-6, but they did hold a lead at halftime. Duke going in, making the adjustments. It was kind of a similar theme to what we had seen on Sunday night, where LSU led 17-13. And then one of those other teams came out, far, far different. Of course, Duke and Florida State. So one last thing. I mean,
go ahead. 2
2
last things.
Oh yeah, we can. That's many. I want to make
the pregame stuff. Hey, this isn't Riley's offense. This is the Clemson offense. If we're gonna get on Jimbo for saying that kind of stuff, when people were asking him, he was kind of bristling at it with him and Petrino very early in the offseason. Look, Jimbo Fisher's called plays for a national championship team. Dabo Swinney ain't never called plays in his life. If there's ego going on there, maybe I'm reading into that too much, right? Could be. If there's ego going on there, that's not a good fight to have, because you know it and I know it as longtime ACC guys. Dabo is a manager of people guy, vibes guy, recruiting guy, getting everybody to play really hard and buy-in guy. I don't think anybody's ever been like, man, Dabo's amazing with the chalk. Not that I am or you are, but like among coaches.
Right. Yeah, that's he did the same thing when Chad Morris left.
And it worked. Yeah. Well,
and he said, no, this isn't the, Chad Morris offense. This is the Clemson offense. Chad Morris leaves. And then, Jeff Scott, Tony Elliott, basically everything until Brandon Streeter got promoted was still playing like up at that really, really high level. I found it a little bit interesting